Okay, I've had one or two emails and comments on tutorials recently asking me for more help with hand independence. Okay, if you're just starting out with piano improvisation in particular, then getting your hands to work independently but together is a big challenge. Okay, it's a big challenge even if you're having regular piano lessons when you're learning music off a sheet. But if you're improvising, then it can be particularly difficult. And the reasons for that are fairly sort of straightforward if you think about it. If you're playing a jazz improvisation, okay, you've got quite a lot of complexity going on in the right, but you also have to think about the left. If you're playing 12-bar blues, okay, then even playing that sort of simple pattern in the left can be quite difficult in the face of all that complexity you've got going on in the right. Okay, so what can you do? Well, I've talked about some hand independence exercises in the past, in particular with relevance to 12-bar. Today I want to offer you a few more because I know it's something that people are interested in, but also give you a bit of a range. So one or two things that you can do if you're kind of an absolute beginner or not far off, but also one or two things you can do if you're a more advanced player. Okay, starting out, and this first one is true, holds good for everybody, whether you're a beginner, advanced player or whatever. One of the best routes to hand independence is to practice your scales. I know we talk a lot about scales, but they're good for all sorts of things, not just hand independence, but for muscle strength, for control, for touch. 100 different things scales will help you with. But they can help you with hand independence, especially when you're just starting out. Now, if you're having lessons or if you're learning from a book or from some sort of online course or whatever, most of the time you will be playing your scales in what we call similar motion. Once you've started playing them two hands together, that is. So this is the scale of C major in similar motion. We call it similar motion because basically each hand is doing the same thing but an octave apart. Okay, now playing this kind of thing will help your hand independence to an extent, but only to a fairly limited level because both hands are doing the same thing, and having both hands doing the same thing at the same time is pretty straightforward. But there's a very simple change you can make to your scales to help your hand independence, and that's to play them in contrary motion. What do I mean? Let me demonstrate. Scale of C major, contrary motion. Okay, it's sometimes a bit of your two thumbs fight there at the end, but as you can see it's very straightforward. We're doing exactly the same scale, but rather than the two hands moving together, they're moving in opposite directions. Yeah, you can do it in lots of other keys. You can do it in any other key, and you will find if you play your scales in contrary motion as well as in similar motion, it will help your hand independence. Yeah, even if you've been playing the piano a good long while, then playing in contrary motion can be a really good thing to do. Okay. Scales can also be used in other ways to help your hand independence. A good one that I sometimes use is to play a scale in one hand and something completely different in another. Okay, so quite a useful exercise, and again you can do this in pretty much any key, is to play a pattern in the right hand and a scale in the left, because it's the left hand really that we want to be concentrating on, assuming you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, then clearly it might be the other way around. But if you're right-handed like me, when we talk about hand independence, what we really mean is improving the skill and the dexterity and the independence of the left hand, because the right can pretty well look after itself most of the time. So, as I say, a good thing to do is to play the scale in the left but something completely different in the right. And really that's the basis of all hand independence exercises, getting the two hands doing something very different at the same time. And that's what kind of grows the kind of neural circuits that you need to make your hands independent. Let me show you this one that I do. Excuse the dog barking, she gets very excited by the sound of piano playing. So I'm playing this very simple right hand, very simple pattern. See what I did there? Scale of C in the left hand, and very simple pattern in the right. Okay, easy by themselves, but less easy to do together. Okay, and again, you can do them in different keys, and so on and so forth. You should find that quite tricky at first, especially if you're fairly new, but it's a good one to do. Anything like that can work. Different actions for different hands. Playing two different scales against each other. Okay, G against C. I'm struggling to do that actually. Sounds fairly horrible. But anything that really gets you out of your comfort zone and gets you where you're struggling to make the two hands work together. The thing that's worth saying here is there's no magic bullet, okay? There is no simple way of making your hands independent of one another overnight. It takes ages and ages and ages of practice, and very, very few pianists, and certainly not me, ever get to a level where their hands are completely independent and they can, that they really have, they can do whatever they want with either hand. Rather, it's a question of degree. The reason there's no magic bullet is because you're getting the two halves of your brain, the two hemispheres of your brain, to work more closely together, and that means building new neural circuits. It means reinforcing those neural circuits, and that kind of thing doesn't happen overnight. If you do the exercises, you can make progress quite quickly, okay? But you have to really relentlessly flog them. Don't just play them 10 times. Don't play them 100 times. Play them 1,000 times. That's when you can really get the hand independence going, and vary them. Just playing one exercise is no good. Play a few different ones. What other exercises can we use? I don't know if I've already mentioned it. I'll give you a link to that other that first video I did of hand independence exercises. Anyway, what other ones can we do? If you're slightly more advanced, a good thing you can do is find a simple piece of music that you can play and reverse the hands. Yeah, so that the left hand typically is playing the melody and the right hand the chords. Yeah, and again, it's pushing you out of your comfort zone and getting your left hand doing something more complicated. Yeah, so any piece of music that you can already play, try reversing the hands. Can you do it the other way around? That will help your hand independence. If you're a bit more advanced, and especially if you've had classical lessons, then dig out some Baroque music. Okay, what I mean, of course, is music by Bach or Purcell or Handel or any of those guys, typically from the 17th and early 18th centuries, where you have what those guys essentially were doing was usually writing piano pieces which used the two hands very independently of one another. Okay, I've got one in front of me here. I've demonstrated from this piece before, but it's the Allemande from which is the first part of Bach's first French suite. And as you can see, assuming you can read music fairly well, that's not just a tune in the right hand and an accompaniment in the left. That is two quite distinct parts, right and left. So if you've got some Baroque gear, but some Baroque scores, go for it. Practice that because it will really help you. as you can see, my two hands were doing very, very different things there. Now that's quite a complicated piece of Baroque keyboard music, but even some of the earlier stuff, some of the very basic material that you get in grade 1 and 2 repertoire books will help you do that kind of thing. So, go to your local music shop, go to Amazon and find one of these, compendiums of it's easy to play Baroque or whatever, and that kind of stuff will really help you. Interestingly, a lot of jazz musicians jazz pianists like playing Bach because they find it really helps them with their hand independence. And it's true, if I'm practicing jazz, I'll intersperse it with a bit of Bach. And for some reason it helps. Now, obviously, if you're only just starting out, then you're not into that kind of thing yet. It's not something you can do. But if you do have that classical background, and I know some people who watch the channel do, don't neglect that. Playing some of that classical material to help you with this hand independence. And believe it or not, it will really help you with your blues and jazz. So there we go. The essential thing is to do stuff, and by all means develop your own exercises, that pits the left hand against the right hand doing different things. Whether that's as simple as your scales in contrary motion or different things in different hands, doesn't matter, okay? As long as the two hands are doing something different. If you've got any ideas for hand independent exercises, by all means stick them in a comment underneath this video. I'll be delighted to hear new ones. Make a video of your own. If you do that, that'd be great. Post it as a response to this video. I'll certainly accept it. And there we go. Hopefully that's useful. If you have any questions, as usual, give me a shout. Also, as usual, I will give you a little plug for my book, How to Really Play the Piano, the stuff your teacher never taught you, which helpfully I have. I don't seem to have a copy here. Anyway, it's awesome. I'll include a link in the description. But loads of stuff on chords and improvisation, getting into improvisation by 12-bar blues, stuff like that. If you have had very basic piano lessons in the past, but you want to know about how to do this kind of thing, then you will find the book a very useful kind of accompaniment to the videos. Okay, there we go. Any questions, as usual, get in touch. Any ideas for videos, as usual, get in touch. Always very happy to hear from people with ideas, and I will see you again next week.